The air stank of scorched metal and blood. Smoke drifted in slow spirals across the shattered landscape of Herixis 4, curling through the broken husks of armored crawlers and shattered bunkers. The silence that followed the battle was not peace. It was aftermath, raw and unfinished, a jagged wound over the land. Private Kale Renn staggered through the wreckage, his left leg dragging slightly from the shrapnel embedded in his thigh. His rifle hung from a frayed sling, empty, but he clutched it out of instinct. There were no more shots to fire. His squad was gone, vaporized, burned, buried. Only he remained. The moons overhead cast a pale, cold light across the battlefield. Fires still flickered in the wreckage, painting everything in hues of dying orange. Kale's breath rasped through the filters of his cracked helmet as he limped toward the twisted remains of an enemy transport's ethery design. Sleek, organic, with curved plating that shimmered faintly even in ruin. He needed shelter, supplies, anything. He climbed through the crumpled hull, boots crunching over scorched debris. The interior was dark, filled with a cloying heat and the bitter stench of melted circuitry. He pushed deeper, passing shattered consoles and the limp shapes of what had once been the enemy. At least until his foot caught on something soft. Looked down. She lay curled beneath a collapsed support beam, half covered in ash and wreckage, small, slender, barely breathing. Her skin shimmered faintly, casting dim pulses of soft blue-green light across the metal walls. Long tendrils of silver-black hair clung to her cheeks. Her body was bruised and bloodied, her arms bound cruelly in steel cuffs. Gills along her neck fluttered weakly. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, fragile motions. Kale froze. His hand moved reflexively to his sidearm, fingers trembling from fatigue and adrenaline. He should end it. His orders were clear: terminate all enemy species on contact. No exceptions, no hesitation. It was policy. It was war, but she wasn't armed. Wasn't even conscious. Just a girl no older than 15, if her frame translated to human development. She had been left behind, abandoned by her own. He stepped closer, kneeling beside her. The light from her skin flickered uncertainly, as if sensing him. Her eyelids fluttered open for a brief second, revealing obsidian-black eyes, wide and unfocused. She didn't speak, just stared. Then winced and turned away. The cuffs were real. Military issue. Zethery. Kale's jaw tightened. What the hell happened here? He reached for his canteen and dripped water gently across her cracked lips. She flinched, then drank barely. Her wrists were raw beneath the restraints. She wasn't just an enemy. She was a prisoner, and someone wanted her to die here. He looked back toward the broken sky, smoke choking the horizon, then back at the fragile form on the floor. To hell with orders. Kale slung his rifle across his back and slid his arms beneath her. She weighed almost nothing. As he lifted her, her head slumped weakly against his shoulder. The glow of her skin brightened faintly. He stepped out of the wreckage, a soldier carrying what the world called an enemy, but his gut said was something else entirely. Something left behind. Something no one wanted him to see. He didn't know her name yet, but he knew he wouldn't let her die. Kale's breath came hard and shallow by the time he reached the old survey station. The reinforced doors had been scorched by artillery fire, their locking mechanisms fused and brittle. He kicked the emergency panel and forced them open with a growl of effort, metal groaning against metal as he dragged her inside. The station was cold, half buried in sand and ash, a relic from before the war. Dust hung in the air like forgotten time. It would do. He laid her down on a narrow cot, the frame creaking beneath her slight weight. Her breathing was shallow. The glow beneath her skin dimmed with each minute, flickering in patterns he didn't understand. She needed medical help. He had none to give. "Hang in there," he muttered, tearing into his emergency kit. He found a pressure stim, loaded it, and injected it into the soft tissue above her gills. She gasped, her entire body tensing. Her obsidian eyes opened wide and locked on his. No words, only fear. Kale raised both hands slowly. "Not going to hurt you." Her eyes darted to the door, then to his holstered pistol. "I'm not like them," he said. "Whoever cuffed you, I'm not them." She didn't respond. But she didn't run. That was something. He gently removed the cuffs from her wrists. Her skin was torn where the restraints had dug in. Strange, faintly glowing veins webbed just beneath the surface, like starlight caught beneath glass. He wrapped her wounds, cleaned what he could, and offered water again. This time, she took it without flinching. As the hours passed, Kale paced the narrow room, keeping one eye on the comms console. It was dead fried in the blast that had gutted the region's relay grid. No one was coming. Not for him. Not for her. Outside, the moons had risen higher. Erixus 4's pale twin orbs bathed the desolate landscape in sterile light. The world looked frozen in time. Inside, warmth bloomed, quietly. Between two survivors, she didn't speak his language, not fully. But she began to draw again, this time in the dust along the wall panel. Symbols, spirals, equations, star positions. She pointed to herself, then drew a stylized figure of her own kind surrounded by others. Then she drew lines crossing them out. Exile. Left behind. Kale knelt beside her. "Why?" she hesitated. Then slowly she pointed to her temple, then to the stars she'd drawn. Her eyes were solemn, frightened. You knew something. He stared at the lines, something turning over in his gut. She wasn't just abandoned. She was erased. The sound of engines rumbled in the distance. Kale froze. He moved to the viewport. Through the haze of ash and dust, a drone passed overhead, black and skeletal, sweeping low. Recon class. Human design. It paused over the crash site, scanned for heat signatures, then continued on. "Damn it," Kale whispered. "They're still looking." He turned back. The girl Sira was already reaching for the light control, dimming it. She crouched low, instinctively trying to hide her glow. Clever. Terrified. Alive. Kale moved to the entrance and sealed it, barring it with a dented metal pipe. His hands trembled. He was no longer a soldier holding position. He was a traitor in hiding, harboring a fugitive, an enemy, a child. But as he turned and looked back at her, Sira, crouched by the wall, watching him with quiet trust blooming beneath exhaustion, he didn't feel shame. He felt human again, and maybe for the first time. Free. The second night brought thunder from the skies. Kale jolted awake to the tremble of distant impacts. Outside the reinforced walls of the survey station, the horizon pulsed with orange and violet streaks, orbital strikes hammering distant coordinates. In calculated arcs, they were cleansing the region, sector by sector. Standard protocol when recovering compromised zones. He knew what that meant. Command wasn't coming for him. They were coming to erase him. Inside the station, the emergency. Lights flickered dimly, casting rust-colored shadows over the cramped space. Sira slept fitfully beneath a thermal blanket, her glowing skin dulled and trembling with each distant concussion. Her fingers twitched as if caught in dreams she couldn't escape. Kale sat beside her, jaw clenched, rifle cradled across his lap. He hadn't slept in 26 hours. Couldn't. The beacon he'd tried to fix remained dead. And the longer they stayed in one place, the more certain it became that someone human or otherwise would find them. He stood slowly and crossed to the storage room, rummaging through crates of pre-war salvage. A half-dead portable scanner, a solar charge unit, a mining drone's cum relay, junk. Until he found it. An old trans-frequency monitor. Still intact. Kale dragged it back to the console and began patching in wires, fingers flying despite the ache in his hands. The screen flared to life with static, then steadied. Encrypted military broadcast detected. Decoding. Up A. Voice filtered through the static. Cold. Clinical. Double quotes. Suspected rogue asset in Quadrant 12. One human signature. Cross-referenced with Kia roster. Private Kale Renn. Assume hostile. Retrieval. Unnecessary. Elimination protocol authorized. Mobile teams en route. Kale's breath caught in his throat. They knew. Not only was he abandoned, they declared him dead. And now they were coming to make sure it stayed that way. A soft rustle behind him. Sira stood in the doorway, blanket clutched around her shoulders. Her wide, dark eyes met his. He didn't need to explain. She'd heard. She stepped forward and pressed her palm gently to his chest. Her touch was warm, trembling, but deliberate. Kale covered her hand with his. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "This wasn't supposed to happen." Sira looked up at him, then reached for the console. Her fingers moved over the controls with practiced confidence. She rewired something, redirected a feed, and within moments, the screen shifted to show. A map overlays Zethary script, alien geometry. Kale watched as she marked a point north of their position. A circle. A swirl. A word appeared in her language, but she said it aloud in halting English. Sanctuary. He stared at the location, then at her. "You know where to go." She nodded. Then her voice grew quieter. "Danger. Coming." A chill prickled down his spine. "How soon?" Sira didn't answer. She closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. And then her hand still pressed against his chest. "TENCD." Kale gasped, stumbling back as a wave of emotion surged into him. Fear, heat, movement, the flash of red helmets, heartbeats in unison, cold metal boots in formation. They were close. She was transmitting sensations, not telepathy, empathy. Raw and pure. His heart pounded with adrenaline not entirely his own. It was her awareness guiding his instincts. He looked at her, stunned. "You can sense them," she nodded once. "I can shield you, a little." Kale moved quickly, gathering supplies. Food rations, power cells, weapon mags, his emergency cloak. "Then we leave now." They exited through a side vent and slipped into the ash-ridden night. Sira wrapped in a scavenged hooded jacket, dimming her glow with a pigment layer Kale had applied earlier. He carried most of the gear, moving at a crouch, using terrain to break line of sight. They didn't speak, but they didn't need to. Through the subtle pressure of her hand on his arm, he knew when to slow, when to freeze, when to turn left instead of right. Her senses reached beyond his. At one point, they passed the wreck of a human transport half buried in the canyon wall. Inside, two soldiers stood silent, motionless, scanning the wasteland with night vision optics. Sira's grip tightened. Their thoughts were hostile, predatory. Kale felt it like a blade under his skin. He didn't blink, didn't breathe, and still the soldiers didn't see them. They moved on. By dawn, they reached a ridge overlooking the edge of the Blackstone Flats. Kale set her down to rest beneath an outcrop of jagged rock. The silence returned, but it no longer felt empty. He looked at her, exhausted, heart still racing from near encounters and the rush of her gift. "You said sanctuary." She nodded. "It's real?" Sira reached into her coat and pulled out a small data crystal. Embedded with alien symbols, it pulsed faintly in time with her breath. "I must get this home," she whispered. Truth inside, war must stop. Kale stared at her, sweat tracing down his temple. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a key. And now they were both being hunted for it. The stars turned blood red that night. Kale sat beside a fading fire in the shadows of a jagged stone hollow, his back pressed to the cool obsidian wall, rifle laid across his lap. The black stone flats stretched around them in every direction, cracked and silent under a sulfuric haze. Behind him, Sira rested curled beneath a thermal wrap, her skin dimming to a soft, near-invisible glow. She hadn't spoken much since they'd crossed the ridge. Her breaths had grown shallow. Slower. He knew the signs. She was deteriorating. Atmospheric breakdown, maybe. Lack of proper nutrients. Exposure to pollutants her body wasn't built for. He'd seen it happen once during a failed prisoner exchange. Alien girl, not unlike Sira, collapsed after 10 hours on a human-controlled moon. Kale looked down at her now. He'd carried her half the night through ash fields and windstorms, had watched her stumble but refused to stop. Something kept her moving. He needed to know what it was. He touched her shoulder lightly. "Hey, talk to me." Sira blinked slowly, her obsidian eyes reflecting the dying firelight. She sat up with effort, pulling the wrap closer around her shoulders. Then, reaching out with trembling fingers, she placed the small data crystal into his hand. Kale turned it over, the etched lines pulsing faintly. "What's on this?" She drew in a shaky breath and with slow, careful words said, "The war is not what you think." He tensed. Sira looked up at him, her voice barely above the wind. "Your people, human scientists. They came to our moons first, before the war." He frowned. "Explorers?" She shook her head. "They took samples. Living ones, disappeared our scholars. We tried to speak. Tried peace, but someone wanted silence." Kale remembered classified mission reports, archived expeditions to uninhabited regions, always redacted past a certain point. He never questioned them. Until now. "Why would they abandon you?" he asked softly. "Why cuff you like a prisoner?" Sira's hands clenched in the fabric of her cloak. "I was apprenticed to House Vera, the science cast. My work. It found proof. They did not want it seen. They called it treason." She stared into the fire. "I ran. Hid the crystal in my blood weave. They caught me. But they could not destroy it." Kale stared at the crystal, cold rage blooming in his chest. "So they left you to die out here, with the data still inside you." Sira nodded. He cursed under his breath and stood. The fire cracked behind him as he paced. "My command thinks I'm dead. They're sweeping this zone, and when they find U.S., they'll kill you without hesitation. They'll kill me just to erase the mistake." He turned to her. "If we want to make it to your sanctuary, we'll need a transport. Something fast. Undetectable." "There is one," Sira said quietly. "Old vessel, research class. My people left it beneath the ice cliffs when the first colony fell." Kale stepped closer. "You know how to fly it?" "I can try." That word again. Tried out the cum unit on Kale's wrist crackled. A voice gruff. Human cut through the static. "This is Recon Unit 9. Repeat. Area secured. No visual on the fugitive. Heat signature found near Grid 7C could be scavenger wildlife." "Orders?" another voice replied. "Shoot anything that moves." Kale muted the signal, his jaw clenched tight. He looked at Sira, already reaching for her gear with unsteady hands. "I can feel them again," she whispered. "Closer. They single quotes angry. One of them knows you." Kale's heart sank. "Then they've sent my old squad." She looked at him. "You could leave. Let me go. You'd live." He didn't answer at first. Just looked at her. The thin line of her shoulders, the bruises fading into bioluminescent veins, the quiet fire in her eyes even when she trembled. Then he knelt before her and offered his hand. "I left a lot of things behind when I became a soldier," he said. But I'm not leaving you." For a moment, the tension in her face cracked. She pressed her hand into his and let it linger. Their flight resumed before sunrise. They traveled a glacier run beneath cover of cloud, the wind screaming like ghosts across the cliffs dot by nightfall. They saw it half buried in a frozen cavern of blue ice, the wreck of an ancient Zethary scout vessel. Its hull glowed faintly with dormant energy, its shape curved like a bird of prey folded in sleep. Sira fell to her knees before it, whispering words he didn't know but somehow understood. It was hope. They were almost there. But Kale's relief was short-lived. A blinking light lit up on his forearm, display tracking. Ping detected. They had 10 minutes, maybe less, and they weren't alone. The ship was ancient, half sunk in ice and time, but it was alive. Kale felt it the moment he stepped into the dark hull, boots crunching on frost-covered metal. The silence inside wasn't dead. It was dormant, like something breathing just beneath the surface. Faint pulses of violet light moved through the floor panels as if the vessel sensed them, remembered them. Sira moved ahead of him, one hand outstretched toward the curving console that rose from the center of the room like a blossom of stone and crystal. "This was ours," she whispered, "long ago, before everything burned." Her voice echoed. In the chamber, soft as snowmelt, and for a heartbeat, Kale could almost imagine the ship taking a breath in response. He pulled the frost damp cloak tighter around his shoulders and moved to her side. "Can you fly it?" Sira didn't answer. She knelt, fingers brushing across the console in delicate patterns, tracing sigils, awakening dormant circuits. The floor lit up brighter. A low hum vibrated through the hull. The ship was listening. Kale stepped back, eye-scanning the inner hull. No weapon systems, no reinforced shielding. This was a research vessel, not a warbird. If they were intercepted, they'd be ashes before they could explain. But it was the only chance they had. A sudden jolt rocked the ship. Then another outside heavy. Footsteps on the ice. Kale froze. Sira's eyes snapped open. "They've found us." Kale ran to the narrow viewport. Through the swirling snow and the blue haze of the glacier walls, dark figures moved across the ice. Human exosuits, 3, no 4. Their movement precise, methodical. Squad trained. He reached for his rifle and turned to Sira. "Seal the hatch. Now?" She didn't argue. Her fingers danced across the console as the interior lights pulsed faster. With a rush of steam, the entry ramp began to fold closed. The outer hatch hissed shut just as the first impact shook the door. Boom. Another. They were breaching. Kale dropped to one knee behind a support strut, rifle aimed at the hatch. He could feel Sira behind him, still working. The ship's systems flickered to life navigation, auxiliary power, thrusters barely groaning awake after years of cold silence. "I need time," she said. "A few minutes." "You've got one." Kale muttered. The hatch detonated inward. Smoke? Flashbang light. Kale squeezed the trigger. The first intruder dropped, his suit flaring as a high-velocity round shattered his chest plate. The others scattered, returning fire. Sparks rained down as bullets carved into the ship's old bones. Kale ducked low, flanking to the side, using bulkhead shadows for cover. A round grazed his shoulder, spinning him back, but he gritted his teeth and fired again. One more down, then a voice, human, familiar, Renn. "Stand down, you're protecting enemy property." Kale's blood ran cold. Sergeant Vex. The man who had led his first deployment. The man who left civilians to burn in Sector 14 and called it containment. "I'm giving you one chance." Vex growled from the shadows. "Walk out now, leave the alien, and I'll call it mercy." Kale barked a bitter laugh. "You don't know what mercy means." More shots fired, this time not from him. A scream. Then Silence.Kale looked back. Sira stood near the console, one hand raised, her palm glowing with fierce inner light. The remaining soldier collapsed mid-sprint, clutching his head, convulsing. His weapon skittered across the floor. Only Vex remained, Kale. Rose from cover, training his rifle on the shadow moving through the smoke. "I raised you better than this, Renn," Vex said. "You were a soldier." "I still am," Kale said coldly. "But not for people like you." Vex raised his weapon. A crack echoed through the chamber. Vex collapsed, his suit sparking. Sira stood over him, breathing hard, her glow flickering. Her eyes didn't hold hatred, only grief. "He would not stop," she said. Kale stepped beside her and put a hand on her shoulder. "I wouldn't have either." The ship jolted. "Ignition sequence complete," a mechanical voice said in soft zethery tones. Sira fell against the console. Drained. Kale caught her, pulling her to the co-pilot seat. "Strap in," he said, fingers flying over unfamiliar controls. The ship rose in a storm of ice and wind. The cavern collapsed behind them. The snow turned to fire as they punched through the cloud-covered outside. 2 human patrol ships were inbound signatures blinking red on the proximity screen. Kale gritted his teeth. No weapons, no shields, and we're out of time. Sira's voice trembled. "But we have truth." She reached over and slammed her hand onto the data crystal slot. The ship absorbed it. Instantly, the transmission module flared. A burst of encrypted code flew outward across all frequencies. Kale stared at the console. "What did you do?" "Released it," she whispered. "The truth, across the stars." On the radar, the patrol ship stopped. Moving. Just ... hovering ... watching ... and then one turned away. Then the other ... retreating. Sira slumped in her chair. Exhausted. Kale stared at her, stunned. "They saw it, what you had. It changed everything." "Not everything," she whispered, eyes closing. "But maybe enough." He guided the ship into open space, breath finally slowing as Erixus 4 vanished behind them in swirling clouds. War wasn't over, but the lie was broken, and the world would never be the same. Silence in space wasn't peaceful. It was vast, hollow. A soundless scream. The Zethery scout vessel cruised beyond the gravity well of Erixus 4, its ancient engines thrumming with unfamiliar rhythm beneath Kale's boots. For hours, neither he nor Sira spoke. She slept curled in the co-pilot's seat, silver blue light pulsing beneath her skin like a heartbeat. Pale, weak, fading. Kale adjusted their trajectory toward the coordinates she had given him, a string of encrypted data embedded in the now empty crystal she had sacrificed to expose the truth. They had no weapons, no allies. No clear idea who would receive that transmission, or what would come of it. But it was out there now, the truth was loose, and someone, somewhere, would want it silenced. Kale leaned back in the pilot's chair, letting the hum of the ship settle over him like a blanket of static. He watched Sira sleep, her face serene but her body too still. She was deteriorating. Each hour away from her people, her atmosphere, was another step toward collapse. He reached for the ship's medical interface. Most of the readouts were in Zethery script, but he could decipher enough to see the warnings. O. Conversion failing. Neural fatigue. Organ stress from chemical imbalance. She wouldn't survive long without proper treatment, and her sanctuary was still 2 days away. Suddenly, alarms blared. Kale snapped upright. Long-range intercept detected. Vessel class, unknown. Approach vector, fast. He activated the scanners, bare bones as they were, and froze. Not human, not Zethery. Something else. A long, needle-shaped ship cutting through space like a blade. No ID codes, no insignias. But his gut told him exactly what it was. Collector, he muttered. Of course. Sira stirred, her eyes opening slowly. She looked at the display, then back at him. He followed the signal. He wants ... me. Not just you, Kale said. You're proof of what we did, of what they buried. Sira pushed herself upright, her hands trembling as she reached for the console. He'll disable our ship, board us, take me. No, Kale said. He'll take us. You're not alone anymore. She looked at him, the faintest curve of a sad smile on her lips. He doesn't want you. He'll kill you just to make me afraid. Kale checked the controls. I can still maneuver. If I use the ice belt around Duraxis 9, we might be able to lose him. No, she said quietly. He's faster, stronger. He won't stop. Her voice grew smaller. But I can. Kale turned sharply. What are you talking about? Sira placed her palm over the central interface. This ship responds to my mind, to my emotions. It was made that way. I can reach it, unlock more. Kale's eyes widened. Are you saying you can fight him? She didn't answer. Instead, her skin began to glow brighter like moonlight breaking through water. Symbols lit up across the console. Systems he hadn't seen before shimmered into view, defensive mechanisms, energy rechanneling, some kind of pulse emitter that resonated with her very presence. Her voice trembled. But it will burn me. The older systems require full link. Neural. I won't survive it long. No. Kale stepped toward her. There has to be another way. We'll run. We'll find Kale. She looked at him. He stopped. You saved me when no one else would. You believed me when even my own kind turned away. I was left to die. But you carried me. And now I have a choice. Her hand reached for his. I choose to stop running. The ship jolted violently. The collector had arrived. Kale's breath hitched. Then I stay with you. Sira shook her head, tears forming in her dark eyes. You gave me a future. I won't let him take yours. The systems flared to life. Her body arched as the ship linked directly to her neural lattice. A soundless scream echoed through the vessel as light exploded from every panel. A wave of energy burst outward, blinding and cold. The collector's ship shuddered on the display. Systems flickering. Interference cut through its sensors. Sira's body slumped. Kale caught her, cradling her trembling form. Sira ... stay with me. She was shaking, eyes glazed with pain. Fire the pulse, she whispered. Now, before he recovers. Kale turned to the console. How? Her lips barely moved. Follow ... the stars. His fingers hovered, then struck the pattern glowing on the screen. A burst of radiant energy rippled from their ship-focused harmonic, aimed straight at the collector's vessel. The enemy ship cracked down, its middle systems overloading, structure imploding in a beautiful, terrifying silence. It crumbled into the void like dust caught in sunlight. It was over, but the glow in Sira's skin was fading fast. Kale held her close. We made it. Sira, stay with me. She blinked slowly. I feel ... cold. He placed her hand over his chest. You're not going anywhere. You hear me? You're safe. She smiled faintly. I was safe the moment you found me. Kale whispered her name again. And again. The stars outside blurred as he pushed the ship toward the sanctuary world. All he could see was her ... and the light that was beginning to fade. He had never flown this fast before, not in training, not in combat, not even when retreating under orbital fire. The sanctuary world loomed ahead, a soft sapphire planet cradled in a ring of debris and mist, known only in fragmented Zethary. Coordinates: Veil-Sorin. The ship groaned under the strain, old engines whining as if they too feared time would run out. Kale kept one hand on the throttle, the other gripping Sira's limp fingers where she lay across the reclined co-pilot's seat. Her skin was barely glowing now, her breath shallow. Her head lolled with every jolt of the hull. Stay with me, he whispered, his voice cracking. "You told me the truth had to survive. You didn't say you wouldn't." No response. He angled the ship into Vale Surin's gravity well, following the last set of navigational glyphs she'd carved into the console herself. The clouds parted to reveal a world of waterfalls, crystal plateaus, and deep luminous groves, hidden beauty untouched by war. Then, like rising ghosts, they appeared, ships, small, elegant, bearing the smooth curvature and flowing patterns of Zethary design. They flanked his vessel without weapons drawn. Not interceptors. Escorts. They had heard the signal, and they were waiting. Kale activated the comm and transmitted the single Zethary word she'd taught him days ago. The only word that mattered now. Ka. Connection. They responded with coordinates. A landing platform unfurled from a cliffside grove, glowing with biolights that pulsed in rhythm with Sira's own flickering aura, as if the world itself recognized her. He landed rough. The ship trembled as the landing gear gave out beneath its age and effort. Sparks flew. Systems died. But they were down. He scooped her into his arms and bolted for the hatch before the heat of re-entry had fully dissipated. Sira was so light now. Too light. Outside, a dozen figures approached, tall, silver-skinned, robed in glistening fabrics that moved like water. Scholars, elders, protectors, and among them, a woman whose bioluminescent patterns mirrored Sira's perfectly. Her mother, Kale, staggered forward. "Help her, please." The woman, High Scholar Vera, stepped forward and gently took Sira from his arms. "You brought her home," she said in perfect English. "She's dying," Kale said, barely able to breathe. Vera touched her daughter's forehead. "Not if we act quickly." They moved fast. One of the elders pressed a hand to Sira's chest. Another summoned a medical lattice, a shimmering web of energy that enveloped her body. Her light pulsed faint, then brighter, then flickering again. The elders closed their eyes and hummed in a harmonic resonance. The entire grove vibratd. And then Sira gasped that her back arched. Her eyes flared open. Her glow returned in a sudden wave of silver and blue and white. Kale dropped to his knees. She was alive. Sira sat up weakly, eyes darting. Then they found him. She whispered his name, and when he reached for her, she leaned into his arms, her strength returning breath by breath. Later, when the sun of Vale Surin dipped behind the crystal cliffs, Sira and Kale stood before the gathered council of the surviving Zethary houses. The truth he had helped release had spread. The war was already fracturing. Human fleets were withdrawing. Investigations had begun. He expected judgment, but Vera bowed her head to him. "You did not just save my daughter. You gave us back our truth, and for that, your name will live here as one of our own." Kale looked to Sira, and she smiled, a real one, soft and bright, her hand slipping into his. "You are Ka," she said. "Mine, as I am yours." Months passed. The war did not end overnight, but it bled out slowly under the weight of revelation. Tribunals were formed, apologies, finally, issued. Earth's corrupt sectors were rooted out. Those who tried to erase her were brought to justice. And in a quiet garden on Vale Surin, under the violet moons, Kale tended bioluminescent flora. While Sira taught children, the next generation of Zethary and humans alike, together, their sanctuary became a symbol, a bridge, not built by armies, but by two souls who refused to let the galaxy define who they were to each other. One night, as starlight spilled through the canopy, Kale found Sira watching the sky. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. She turned, luminous eyes full of warmth. "That I was left behind?" He nodded. "No," she said. "Because if I hadn't been, you'd never have found me." She reached for his hand, "And I would have never found home."